Arsenal beat Watford 2-0 in a behind closed doors friendly to kick off their pre-season campaign. They have now flown to Singapore, but there is no Viktor Gyokeres and no Christian Mosquera with them. What is going on with our signings? Why is there such a delay? We're going to be talking about all of that this morning on this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. If you are tired of how Arsenal are usually covered in the media, then you are in the right place. This is Arsenal Chat with Arsenal people, and as you heard at the top, we will be discussing the kind of kick-off and start of pre-season with a behind closed doors friendly win against Watford. I'll take you through the very, very limited details that we do know, and I mean they are limited because this was about as closed doors as you can get. And then we're going to start talking a little bit more about Singapore. The team have travelled out there, some of the players who are there, some of the players who aren't, some players to look out for, and briefly touch on Mikel Arteta's interview and, most recent interview I should say, and some of the young players that you might want to watch out for when you're watching the pre-season friendlies against AC Milan, Newcastle and Tottenham. Just before I get started, just want to say a big shout out to listeners from Sweden, Ghana, Australia, Peru. We're getting lots of worldwide listeners, and of course our loyal fan base in the UK and the United States as well. Welcome to everyone wherever you are around the world. I hope you are well. Let's dive into it then. It was a friendly over Watford that we kicked off our pre-season with. As reported by Football London, they seem to manage to get quite a good bit of information about this, so that's fantastic. We won 2-0. I would imagine this is the kind of scenario where it's a 2-11s sort of vibe. Mikel Arteta has confirmed that Gabriel got 45 minutes, and I'm sure you will have all seen the Gabriel interview with James McNicholas in The Athletic when he spoke about, feeling much better after his injury last season. He's returned to training. We've obviously seen that in the pictures, but now a confirmation from Mikel Arteta that he played 45 minutes. Mikel Arteta is very, very happy with obviously the fact that Gabriel signed his new contract, but also the fact that he looks in good shape and was able to play in this game. 2 other players that were able to play were our goal scorers, Ben White popping up with a goal, interesting one, and Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz presumably playing up front in the absence of Viktor Gyokeres. We'll come on to that. Obviously he still is a big Mikel Arteta is still a big admirer of his talents up front. We really have very little information apart from, that really, the 2 goal scorers, and that Arteta revealed Gabriel played 45 minutes. Like I say, usually when these things are played out, they are a 2-11 kind of thing. At half-time, you swap them over. I would imagine Watford did something very similar. We don't know if we went for 2 mixed 11s or a very strong 11 and a very mean to say very weak 11, but maybe an 11 made up of more of the youngsters that are going on the tour. One thing that's really interesting to me, did Max Dowman get any minutes? You presume that he did, but how would he have fared in a really serious, not a really serious game, but that step up to men's football? Salmon as well, he's a new player that really I know nothing about this guy. I think it's Marley Salmon or something like that. I'm just going to find his name. But he is the other 15-year-old that has been included on the... Yeah, it is Marley Salmon. He's the other 15-year-old that's been included on the tour. So very exciting that we've got 2 young players coming on tour with us. I don't know if that's potentially maybe a move to make Max Dowman feel a little bit more at home, that he's not the only person out there that young. It might be a little play like that from Arteta and his team. They always think of that sort of thing. They always think about team building, keeping people confident, looking after the players. So I think that there is a good chance that Marley Salmon is there. Obviously, he's talented. He's in the Arsenal Academy. But to support Max Dowman and his integration by having someone there that he knows, hopefully we do find out a little bit more about this friendly as the hours and days go on, because it'd be interesting just to know how that first game has gone. But it's a 2-0 victory for Arsenal over Watford, and now, like I said, they are out there in Singapore. No Viktor Gyokeres. He hasn't joined up. We know there are still delays. I mean, very, very briefly, because I know that everyone is getting this information from all sorts of areas. it seems like Sporting are still really haggling on the structure of those add-ons. It's said that the Gyokeres camp is very, very upset. His dad in particular seems to have been reported to be, overcome with sadness about how Sporting are treating Viktor Gyokeres. And also, after he has given them 2 unbelievable seasons, Viktor Gyokeres and his camp certainly feel that there is a lack of respect, and maybe Sporting should be a little bit more free and fluid to allow this deal to get done. I think there is a flip side to it. Arsenal do seem to be driving a very, very hard bargain over structures and stuff like that, and it's that really, really tight balance between we want a good price, we want a good structure, and then why don't we just pay it and get it done and get him in? It's a really, really difficult thing. I said at the start of this summer, I really felt that whether it was Benjamin Sesko or Viktor Gyokeres, they needed to be on that plane for Singapore. Now, obviously, it doesn't really matter if they're on exactly the same plane or even if it's a couple of days after. But I really, really wanted them to be there at the start of the tour, to be involved in all the team building exercises, to be involved in basically as many parts of that tour to get them integrated as possible. It doesn't look like Viktor Gyokeres will do that. It certainly doesn't look like he will be involved in the AC Milan game in 2 days' time. So that is a real shame, and we won't be seeing him. Another player, or we won't be seeing him out there yet, I should say. He might still join. Another player we haven't seen, and this one's a bit more surprising to me, is Christian Mosquera. You'll have seen the kind of leaked picture of Christian Mosquera. It came out when Madueke was announced as a new signing, but unfortunately it was not supposed to be there. It was kind of an accidental publishing from Arsenal. Christian Mosquera very clearly sat there in Arsenal kit having an interview with an Arsenal media team, and that went out. I think you can find it on Getty Images. That, it made it very obvious that Mosquera is going to sign for the Arsenal or has signed for the Arsenal. It's just not been announced. So what's the delay? There's been some rumours about a medical problem, but that hasn't really gathered pace. I'm not too sure that's legit. Certainly someone with more credibility and credence, if they report it, it sounds like that would be an interesting one. But with him already being in the kit and already seemingly done a lot of the formalities, is this something that we are just over the line with anyway and we're going to have to suck up? I really don't know. I really don't know. It's interesting. Mikel Arteta in his press conference was asked, are you on schedule or behind schedule for the kind of transfer window? And he said that he is very, very pleased. There's lots of parties and things that we have to bear in mind to get a player over the line. I'm very hopeful we're going to do it very soon. Now, maybe he's speaking specifically about Viktor Gyokeres, but I think that will apply to Christian Mosquera as well. I think it's much less of an issue that Christian Mosquera reaches Singapore. I would far rather Arsenal get that Viktor Gyokeres deal over the line and then finalise the last little bits for Christian Mosquera, because frankly, Christian Mosquera, I don't expect him to play a huge amount to start with, and if he does, it'll be that kind of early League Cup fixture. Maybe if we're handed a very favourable Champions League draw, we might see him in one of those early group games. But for me, Gyokeres will need to be involved at the start. We've got a very difficult set of fixtures. Myself and Rohan on Arsenal predicted those fixtures, the first 6 games of the Premier League season, on my most recent podcast, so go and check that out if you want to hear our predictions. But we've got a very difficult start, and Kai Havertz scoring against Watford and being in favour by the manager, of course, is great, but he will be sharing those minutes with the new number 9, Viktor Gyokeres, so we need to get him in. I think it's much less of an issue to get Mosquera out to Singapore. In fact, I almost wouldn't mind if he didn't join up. I would say, let's get him signed, maybe avoid the jet lag, avoid the travel, get him into London Colney, get him on an individual training plan. We know Declan Rice has done an individual training plan over the summer, and some other players do that quite regularly. Jurrien Timber, of course, still coming back from his ankle surgery, so he will have been on an individual training plan. I believe he still will be. Hopefully we see him in Singapore. But yeah, I think Gyokeres, get him to Singapore. Mosquera, not too worried at all. One thing I want to talk about is the youngsters to watch out for. We've already mentioned Marley Salmon, and Max Dowman keeps coming along. Josh Nichols is out in Singapore as well. We saw him a little bit last season in the League Cup. A very talented right back. Probably not going to make it at Arsenal. Josh Nichols, just because he's got Ben White and Jurrien Timber ahead of him, it's going to be so difficult for him to break through, become a breakout player. Those spots are wrapped up, and I think Mikel Arteta would look to a Christian Mosquera to play right back if we were in the horrible scenario where we're missing both Jurrien Timber and Ben White. I think that it's very unlikely that Josh Nichols gets a breakthrough, so he will potentially be playing for a loan or a transfer. Arsenal really, really rate Josh Nichols. That's why he's on that plane. That's why he got to play in some League Cup games last season. But I think they will be looking at him as someone who they can make a little bit of profit on. And the tour is obviously a great opportunity to sell him, put him in the shop window, and maybe generate interest in a loan, which generates interest in a transfer. One player who I think has been spoken about a lot from the academy and may have a chance of getting some minutes in the League Cup this season, we didn't really see him at all last season, is Harriman Anous. Now, this guy's a forward, big rangy kind of fella, quite sizable for his age, but he has picked up real plaudits in the youth teams, and he is on the plane. Well, not on the plane, they're already there. He is out there in Singapore with the team. I would expect to see him a fair bit, actually, especially before Viktor Gyokeres arrives, coming on for Kai Havertz, playing up front. He is a forward. I believe he can kind of play up front and maybe a little bit off the wing as well. I think he's done that at youth level. Whether that's his preference or that's a developmental thing, I'm not 100% certain, but he's definitely a very attacking, forward-thinking goal scorer. So I'm certain that he will be getting some significant minutes on this tour, and I wonder if he is a player that Arsenal will look to keep around this season, as opposed to Josh Nichols, where they might be saying, let's get you a loan, let's get you some significant game time. It's all very interesting. Mikel Arteta was asked about that as well, and he said that all the young players have an opportunity. The window's open. Whoever knocks so hard and kicks that door is going to have an opportunity. We're going to have games now, so it's up to them. And obviously he's speaking about the number of games we're going to have. If we get favourable draws in the League Cup, FA Cup, we've seen Arteta do it last season. We played some youngsters in those games. I mean, we played a 16-year-old keeper, needs must and all that, because of Neto being cup-tied. But, that was something that we did, and I think we'll be hopeful to see it for players like Harriman Anous, Dalman, Salmon as well, moving forward into the next season. So that's all exciting. I'm excited to see those players on tour. Like I say, we play AC Milan. It's 12:30 UK time on Wednesday. That's quite annoying for me because I'll be in a meeting at work. So I will be watching it sort of on catch-up, and I will bring that to you potentially Wednesday night, Thursday morning, depending on how all of that falls, and kind of just a review of how the game went, what happened, and whether there's any interesting talking points from that game. Finally, some other players who are out on tour: Reiss Nelson, Alexander Zinchenko, Leandro Trossard, potentially playing for transfers. I think Leandro Trossard, that kind of interest from Saudi has never really gone away this summer. It's been bubbling under the surface, and there is a feeling that if Arsenal want to do Eze, they want to do a Rodrigo, one of those players out on the left wing, Leandro Trossard or Gabriel Martinelli, might have to go. So be interesting to see how many minutes he gets, whether he is kept out of a game. That might signal a future transfer happening. Reiss Nelson, he's been linked to going back to Fulham on loan. They really like him over there, but his injury record is obviously a big issue. And Zinchenko, we had the Dortmund links in January, AC Milan links. I think Everton were linked with him at one point. So lots of strange, that's a strange link, but you could see the AC Milan one happening. Maybe if the directors of football are out there for the friendlies, maybe they can do some business while we play each other at half-time, perhaps. Maybe they can get that one over the line. So, look, there's tons to look out for in Singapore. They are out there already. No Mosquera, no Gyokeres, but hopefully Gyokeres will be joining them very, very soon. The final thing is, yesterday we got a post from Arsenal. Something big is coming with what looked like the away kit behind it. The new away kit. Now, the new away kit looks absolutely brilliant. I certainly will be purchasing that one. I don't have the complexion to pull off red, so I tend to always buy the away kits or the third kits. It looks really good. Could there be a new signing within that away kit? I bloody hope so. I really, really do. But I think it is unlikely. I think it will be an announcement of the away kit and a little launch. Arsenal love merchandise launch, and Yeah, let's see. I would love for Viktor Gyokeres to be that announcement in the away kit, but I think it is highly unlikely. That's all for this morning, guys. A bit of a quieter one. You know, we are really waiting for those final few announcements and then the games to start, aren't we? I'm really looking forward to watching some football this week, watching Arsenal play against AC Milan and then Newcastle. But it's gonna be an interesting one. Let's see how we get on, and hopefully we have lots and lots to talk about come Thursday, when we'll be talking about the AC Milan game and hopefully big progress with the Viktor Gyokeres deal. Like I said at the start, guys, really appreciate the support from all around the world. And if you enjoy this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please do consider following the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from and leaving a 5-star review. I'm on a mission to get Arsenal Unfiltered into the ears of as many fans as possible. So your help and support is really appreciated and goes such a long way. So follow and leave a review. Of course, we are doing a little bit of YouTube content as well. So if you enjoy that format, go and find us, Arsenal Unfiltered, on YouTube and subscribe over there. Let's hope we have lots and lots to talk about in the coming days and weeks. And let's hope we have a nice start nice start to our official formal pre-season with a win against AC Milan on Wednesday. All that's left to say, guys, is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you very soon.